Alright, so I want to make a video updating everyone as usual, as well as get into some other important stuff. So let's get right into it here. Canada is up to 17,063 cases with 345 dead. Alberta had 98 new cases yesterday, which is trending about average for the past week or so. We were down, I think it's 69 yesterday, and we were at about 106, 107 the 2 days before that. So again, we're still about averaging. The curve, I think, has been flattened, at least somewhat flattened. And I think I would look for in the next week or two for it to start to go down. Like I say, if it doesn't start to go down soon, we're going to be in a lot of trouble because we can't keep the economy completely at a standstill, or at least mostly at a standstill, for this long, because the government doesn't have the money to keep paying people not to work. Like, I mean, if you're getting $2,000 a month not to work, like this curb thing is supposed to be doing, and like I say, supposed to be because it's been a bit of a crap show so far from what I've heard. But again, the government can't afford it. Like if they do this for 4 or 5 months, the amount of inflation is going to be out of control. So I've heard that a lot of places are looking at. I mean, I've heard reports as early as May, and then I've heard people say, yeah, things aren't open up again until July, maybe even as late as August. So I've heard, like I say, I've heard things all over the map. I don't know who to trust, but I would hope for the earlier side. And like I say, half the deaths in Alberta have came from one nursing home. Like I say, which is it's largely elderly people that are being affected by this. So personally, I think the way of going about it should have always been and should still be, well, let's us isolate anybody with compromised immune systems, anybody who's elderly, and anybody who's young and healthy. I mean, you don't really got anything to worry about. I've heard reports that for people under for people, under 60, with even just people flat out under 60, the chances of surviving if you get it is 99, is almost exactly 99%. And those are just people under 60. Those are including the people that are under 60 that have underlying health conditions. If you're someone who has no underlying health conditions, you're probably looking at 99.9% chance of living, which to me doesn't make sense, that if you're someone in that situation, you can't go back to work. And the reason why I believe in this is I think that whenever we do get back to somewhat normal, because I don't even think we'll ever get back to normal, at least how it was, we're going to realize that, hey, the economy doesn't just start back up again. It's not a light switch. And we're going to see that things are going to be going really slow. And a lot of people that are thinking right now that, oh, they got nothing to worry about, I got a job waiting for me when this is done, they're not going to have a job. And we're gonna be in for some tough times. So keep an eye open for that. Anyway, I wanted to get some other important stuff here. This is from Patrick Moore, and he goes on to say, it seems like the computer models for the virus pandemic are about as accurate as the computer models that have failed so miserably on global warming. Proves you can't predict a chaotic, multi-factor, non-linear future. And again, this is just more evidence. I mean, number one, much more skepticism towards the whole scientific community and the idea of this whole carbon tax, climate change, global warming lie, that somehow these people think that we're going to be able to accurately predict, even though they have yet to do it. They've never predicted anything even close to accurately. We're going to be able to predict the temperature 100 years from now, but yet we can't even predict something that's happening a week from now, a month from now. Like, come on. And the amount of money being pumped into research on this is it's insane. Like that you so you can't claim that that's the example. So again, what is it? Well, like, what is it? But anyway, I wanted to bring this up because this is, like I say, this is just more evidence against this whole climate, the climate hysteria that's going on right now. That, again, we don't know what the temperature is going to be like. So stop pretending we do when we can't even get this stuff accurate. We can't even predict stuff that's happening in the here and now. Again, um, makes no sense whatsoever. This is from Stefan Molyneux. He goes on to say, if China had free speech, the world would have been quickly and decisively informed about the virus, and the world economy would have been, I would say, mostly saved. Tyranny kills even outside its borders, and that's a very true statement. That because China is a communist, anti-free speech country that most leftists agree with, or at the very least would, maybe they claim that they're not communists, even though they agree with most most aspects of communism, and they support most aspects of communism. It's the whole, I believe in free speech, but I don't believe in this, and this isn't free speech, and this isn't free speech, and they have a big long list of things that they don't consider free speech, which is most of what you need to have free speech. Like the whole concept of free speech is you have it because you want to be able to say the things that are unpopular, that are politically incorrect, all those kind of things. If just speech that is, generally supported, then you don't have free speech. That doesn't make any sense. If that's the case, then North Korea has free speech. Then Nazi Germany had free speech, like all those kind of places, and that's just BS. So again, I wanted to bring that up, and like I say, for all these lefties, and there's even some right wingers out there, to be fair, but that are against free speech, which again most of them are. If you believe in hate speech laws, you're anti-free speech. If you're fully on board with all these social media companies banning people that disagree with you politically, which most of you are, you're anti-free speech. So again, I just wanted to bring that up. This is from Andrew Lawton. He goes on to say, a Hill Times reporter asked Justin Trudeau why the government flip-flopped on closing the Canadian border. Trudeau refused to answer, saying he's focused on today. And again, I think we all know the reason why he refused to answer is because he knows he's wrong and he doesn't want to admit he's wrong. It's basically as simple as that. Like I say, they flip-flopped on pretty much everything. They flip-flopped on closing the border because it was racist. Even though anybody with half a brain knows that closing a border would at least cut down on the chances of being infected. We know the countries that did close their borders are much less infected. We know the countries that are big on open borders, like the Spains and Italies of the world. Italy literally had a let's go around hugging Chinese people, and again, nothing against Chinese people. It's just the virus came from China, which means that Chinese people are most likely to have it. And Chinese New Year was one of the reasons why this spread so much. And most people of Chinese descent, I don't know if it's most people, but a very large number of people go back to China for Chinese New Year and come home. And guess what? A lot of them had the virus. And if we would have closed the border, well, guess what? We wouldn't have got hit nearly as hard. So, anyway, just wanted to bring that up. They also flip flopped on masks. They flip flopped on more things than you can count. But anyway, this is from Paul Joseph Watson. He goes on to say, YouTube, any content that disputes the existence or transmission of COVID-19 as described by the World Health Organization and local public health authorities is a violation of YouTube policies. And then he says, does this include the World Health Organization itself, which said there was no human-to-human transmission on January 14th? Again, this is just, again, social media companies having complete double standards. That if you're someone who's questioning the narrative, if you're someone who's the least bit anti-PC, they'll use that as an excuse to ban you. And when this major organization spouts clear things that aren't true, they're clearly paid off by China. They don't get any, not banned, not downranked, none of that kind of stuff. So again, just absolutely crazy, absolute double think. But again, most of these lefties they're big on this kind of stuff because they know that the YouTube and all these social media companies are biased against the right. So they'll be fully on board this kind of stuff. This is from Donald Trump. He said, the World Health Organization really blew it for some reason, funded largely by the United States, yet very China centric. We will be giving that a good look. Fortunately, I rejected their advice on keeping our borders open to China early on. Why did they give us such a faulty recommendation? Well, again, they're clearly paid off at least somewhat by China. Trump says that they're funded largely by the states, but they're clearly funded a very large amount by China. You had the one guy that refused to acknowledge Taiwan's existence. Now, for the simple reason, in a nutshell, China thinks that they basically own Taiwan. Taiwan thinks they're independent. Again, I don't know the whole backstory behind it, but that's basically in a nutshell what it is. And this whole guy was big on the whole Taiwan being part of China. Taiwan doesn't exist. Um, and again, like it's blatantly obvious that the World Health Organization is biased towards China, which is exactly why that they would make a recommendation like this. Like it's like I say, blatantly obvious, like blatantly obvious. And again, I do commend Trump on calling out the World Health Organization. It is something that makes me a little more fond of him because I think he's Although I think like closing the borders early was a great thing that he did. I think that this whole, let's bring in all these massive, socialist redistributionist systems. Again, I'm kind of against that, but like I say, I'm kind of torn on him. But like I say, I think that this calling out the World Health Organization is very good and very good sign for anyone who's the least bit supportive of Trump. And again, it just goes to show just how far gone all the Canadian leaders, namely Trudeau, Haydu, Tam, all these kind of people that um, they're either fully on board with China, they completely agree with them, or they're just flat out communist sympathizers, which is again pretty scary. That Justin Trudeau, says he's a big fan of China's basic dictatorship. No one cares whatsoever. This is a country that killed what 50 million of their own people in the last 100 years. Justin Trudeau says he admires that, and yet no one cares. They have over 1 million people in internment camps, most of them Muslims. Again, no one cares. No one cares. Um, and Trump gives himself more ice cream at a dinner, and the media is all over it. But again, Justin Trudeau praises a country that killed over 50 million of its own people, terrible human rights records. The media doesn't care, and yet you still have these people that try and pretend that the media is unbiased. Like seriously, what world do you live in? Like, what world do you live in? Like, again, absolutely insane, absolutely insane. But anyway, I'm gonna leave it there. If you like the video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. I do have my PayPal linked in the description. I do have my email address for e-transfer. I appreciate any donations, but at the very least, just hit that like and subscribe. And last thing here, I do have a BitChute channel. It's only a matter of time until YouTube bans or suppresses my content. So go check out my BitChute channel. You can see the name here. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it there.